What up, everybody? Dr. JP Gidry here. I want to talk a little bit today about how to properly go about testing and even training for swing speed. This can kind of cover with super speed, stack, or any other swing training systems, as well as just doing it with a driver and ball, or even with a driver in the air. So when we're testing, especially, and even when we're training, we want to try to keep everything as consistent as possible and kind of mimic the setup in the environment as much as we can. So we're going to kind of talk about some specifics of that. I read an article that Super Speed put out that kind of covered a lot of this, which is really good, on their blog. Kind of wanted to put my take on this. So there's some areas we want to make sure we keep consistent throughout the training and especially throughout the testing to make sure our numbers and our data is accurate as possible. So number one, we always want to warm up, and we want to try to make sure that warm up is pretty much similar in its what we're doing, how long it's taking, that type of thing. There's some room for a little variability there depending on how you feel, which we'll talk about kind of things we can do to make that consistent. But in general, we want to make sure we always do a warm up and make sure that warm up is pretty similar between each session, especially each testing session. Number two is we want to have the same intent. So are we testing max intent? Are we testing playing speed, let's say with a driver, or 80% or whatever that may be? Generally most of the time we're going to be spent training at max intent. But when I test, especially with ball and club, I like to test playing in max speeds. So we want to make sure that intent is the same with all of our swings. So if our intent is all out, then we want to make sure every swing has that intent and that intention, especially when we're testing, because we want to make sure those numbers and any gains we get with those numbers are accurate. So the third thing is just the environment, which we can break down to a lot of things. So if it's a club and ball, we want to make sure we're testing with the same club, same shaft, same type of ball, so that we understand our readings regardless of what we're using. So this could be PGR, this could be the PRGR, this could be the sports sensor radar, this could be TrackMan or Flight Scope. We want to make sure we're also testing with the same device every time, and using those same numbers from the same device to compare them. Now we can train on different devices depending on our access, but we want to make sure our testing is done on the same device with the same equipment. We want to make sure our environment's the same, so indoors versus outdoors if possible. The footwear we're wearing, so golf shoes versus not golf shoes. We want to make sure that's set up, even the setup of the device, our distance from the ball is pretty much the same. We want to keep that environment that we're testing as replicable as possible. If you look at research environments, they're trying to eliminate as many variables as possible. We're trying to do the same by recreating that same environment every time we test. And even when we're training, especially if we're tracking numbers when we train. Lastly is just the general things, our sleep, our recovery, our training, time of day. Those are things we want to try to keep consistent. We know that, if we don't get as much sleep the night before, that can impact our sleeping. If we go out drinking, if we, we do a heavy workout before versus one day, the first day we didn't. Those are things we want to try to keep consistent. Generally, you don't want to do a heavy workout before you test. You want to get warmed up, but you want to test pretty freshly. So you want to kind of replicate that. We want to make sure we get sleep and that type of thing the night before as best we can. Some of these things are going to be harder to control than others. But really the key here is replicating the same environment, the same setup, the same tools, the same process every time we do this to ensure that the numbers that we get and the gains that we get are as accurate as possible. So I hope this helps. If you have any questions, you can email me at johnpaul@gidrypt.com. And get strong, swing fast, play forever.